the Pewaukee Public School District Board meeting for Monday, April 27th. Roll call. Travis.
Here.
Stacey.
Here.
Ashley.
Here.
Matt.
Here.
Larry.
Here.
And myself. Can you note that Mary is not present this evening? Thank you. Was the meeting properly noticed?
The meeting was properly noticed.
And can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll stand and do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, tonight, Spotlight on Learning, we have PLE, and we have Stephanie Bayer and Catherine Christensen. And you guys are talking my language because we're talking about music tonight.
That's why I'll keep my part brief.
Her foot's tapping. Her foot's tapping.
Yeah.
back there.
So last time we had a spotlight, we spotlighted Spanish and the great work that happens in there, and just another program that we wanted to highlight that doesn't get enough credit for what they do behind the scenes is music. We all know what happens at the concerts, we all know what happens at Spring Sing, but those are a way of showcasing the learning that happens in the classroom. So they've really made a huge effort on doing hands-on learning as a part of music, not just learning songs. And so they're going to go through all the different things that they do that makes our music program absolutely incredible, leading up to those great performances that we all know and love. So Spring Sing, June 2nd, it's going to be great weather too.
Always.
Hi, my name is Catherine Christensen, and this is Stephanie Bayer, and we are your PLE music teachers. I teach all of 4K music, 2nd grade and below, so 4K, 5K, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. Stephanie teaches half of that as well, but also 3rd grade at Horizon. We co-teach together at points, especially during concert time, but we really enjoy teaching our littles to experience music in so many different ways. And we plan together. Our concerts are always involved with student involvedness, and they're helping us create something beautiful in our room.
So this is a picture of my board, but Catherine's looks very similar. Our motto and our mission statement every day is let's create something beautiful together. And it is to the point that when we do something well, kids will sometimes, without prompting, say, we created something beautiful together. And I'm like, yes, we did, sweet baby. Yes. So, yeah, that is what we live by. That's what we live and breathe. And we always bring everything back to that. Like, oh, are we all helping? Does it say, let's create something beautiful, some of us, or does it say together? And they're like, together. So that is really what we truly believe in. And we feel group music making fosters connection, collaboration, confidence, and creativity. Like, truly, there's so much research out there showing that the experience of group music making improves not just like cognitive function, but actually like social emotional connection to each other, feeling like you're a part of something greater than yourself. And that's what we need in this world. We need kids to connect, especially in this digital age. Like, we need hands-on experiences that help kids connect. I did just put like a little excerpt. This year, we always have kids reflect on their concert, which Catherine will talk about in a second, but we included a parent letter on the back side of it this year where we wrote what we felt proud of them for after their concert, and talked a little bit about like the purpose, connection, having a greater sense of belonging, and then we had the kids reflect on their successes on the next one, or on the back side rather. There you go.
So, of course, at the elementary level, we just want to expose them to all sorts of types of music and ways that you can create music. Especially singing is such an important part of that early development, especially at 4K and even younger. Our curriculum actually goes to starting at 6 months, so I plan to do that when this one comes next week. So we sing, we dance, we move, we create, we play. We want to expose kids to many different instruments in our room. We have them compose their own music. We compose a lot of our concert songs. We read music, we read literature that creates songs as well. We listen to music, and that's something that's everybody does, right? So we have been, as Mr. Siegel said, our Spring Sing, we've been introducing those songs, and our kids come to us like, I sang this on the radio, or I asked Alexa. So we know that's like a part of their home life and their community life. We evaluate music too. We share what's going on in our music, especially with our littles too. In 5K, we did some evaluating of like, is this music low right now, or is it high? Is it fast or is it slow? So we start that right at the beginning, even in 4K. So it's just the various ways that we introduce music in many engagement ways in our classes. So just adding to talking about our concerts, here are some wonderful pictures that we have. This year's 5K concert was based on the book Pete the Cat, Rocking in My School Shoes. We love to utilize literature for our concerts, and we just thought this book really witnessed a great concert to show all of the different things that they see in school, library, the lunchroom, playground, friendships. So we do a lot with that, and then we have our script is the reading the book to our audience, which is really cool. You can see that there are speakers, there's movers, there's instrument players, and when they get to first grade and second grade, we have them choose what special part they want to do for our concerts, which is really cool, because then they have that sense of like student independence and knowing like, hey, I really ownership and really wanting to take part of, I would rather be a speaker than an instrument player. I want to be dancing in a small group. So we love for them to have that ownership and choose their special parts. Here's, as Stephanie had shared, we do a lot of reflections after concerts. Here were some of my favorites that I thought I would share. I had a student, I'm proud of myself for playing the drum. She colored the drum the way our drums are very colorful, and then her part was not just me, think of me. And so it's really cool that like the students can really reflect on their part and sharing that. I have another student that said, I am proud of myself for drumming and singing I Am Enough. One of the songs that they sang was called I Am Enough. And then another student, I am proud of myself for singing and playing the xylophone. So you can see so many notes. It shows that he played a loud part for that concert, and he did, loud and proud. So we're just really, it's really cool to see their reflection after a concert day and just show how proud they are. And we help them, especially at kindergarten level, we help them with prompts. But these were second graders that I wanted to share, and they, it's just really cool what they create in their mind and put down on paper for us to see. And we talk about it, and we just want them to feel proud because we feel proud.
This year we did some composing with our second graders using standard musical notation. I also carried this up into third grade with Miss Stingle. We did something with our third graders that was similar but a level above. So this is a little video. So, in case you didn't catch the words, it was, I love puppies, yeah, they are in my top 10. That was, which is a banger if I've ever heard
That's
one.
a banger.
So, they had to choose between two different patterns, so that's what the shapes represent, A section, B section, and then there was one that was AAAB. So they picked their pattern, and then they had several different rhythm cards to choose from. They had to formulate their pattern, then they had to go to a xylophone and add melody, which was pretty advanced, and then if they wanted to add text, which would be a more advanced skill, to match the rhythm, they could do that. So that's an example of a kid that did all of that. So there was like multiple levels for kids to be successful. They could just leave it as a rhythm composition if that's where they're at, or they could take it up a notch or take it up another notch. So I was really proud of that project with them. We also, for the first time this year, took our second graders to the Milwaukee Ballet to see the Nutcracker. We study the music from that around December every year. It's just so prevalent in our culture. It's in TV commercials and movies. They all immediately go, this is from Home Alone, and yes it is, and now you know what it's called, and it's by Tchaikovsky, and here we know what the original is like. So this was also when we had students create their own scenes to the Nutcracker. They each had a scene and a piece of music to match that scene, and they had to create the movement.
Oh, I love it.
But that was 100% student created. We did not feed them any of that. That was all
They did
them.
awesome.
So
That was
really
good.
cool.
Kind of our last thing to wrap up is just channeling what we do for our community. One of the big events at PLE that I have been a part of since I've been here since 2019, we perform Spring Sing, and it's an all-school event. We basically shut down campus in a way, and it is just a really awesome, fulfilling opportunity. I will be on maternity leave, and we'll be sad because we are starting to prep them, but I know that it's going to be a rock star concert performance celebration. But Spring Sing is an all-school event where all of our encores are basically highlighted. Spanish, music, art, PE, guidance, all of our encores, teachers come together and we choose a theme, we find songs that really are great, that fit with our theme. This year, we kind of had no choice but to do the Golden Song for All School Dance, so we're really excited, and the kids are very excited with that. We've been channeling our indoor celebration silent cheer because we just hear the screaming and how excited we are. And it's just a really great way that we showcase our student learning, especially at the end of the year, especially with elementary. They get ready. I mean, some of them are checked out and ready, even in all ages, up to high school when I taught here a couple of years ago. And so we love that connection that we basically get to have a whole, it used to be at our hill down by the practice soccer fields, but having it at the football field now and this year as well, we can showcase a lot more. It's been really, it was great to have a space that all of our kids could perform and be an audience member and have a lot of audience members. I mean, over 1,000, I don't know, really 2,000 people that get to share and see what we do. And the kids create art, they sing, they dance, they do their PE routine. So it's just really cool to collaborate with not only just the music, but also our whole encore team. And it really takes like a full village of all our classroom teachers, the practices, the teachers learn the all school dance teacher part. The kids are actually kind of sad because there's the part that's the teacher part, and they really want that part. We did have a couple tears, but we said it's just the teacher part, so we have to let them have their moment. And it's just a really fun way to show our community how our learning is done at the end of the school year. So really excited to see them perform. I'm sure I'll get many videos and pictures as well. So I think that's kind of our last bit. So any questions for us?
I just want to acknowledge that you're a week out from the big day, and you're here.
Yes.
So,
Well
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't sing as much anymore.
She almost didn't make it up the stairs.
Oh, no.
Wow, I'm impressed. I'm
It's every day. It's like, is the baby still here?
Yeah, yeah.
Still in there.
Aw.
Still in there.
Well, an appreciation of music starts in the womb. And so you're going to have a baby that's absolutely going to love music. I love that you guys connected it to connection and community, because music is something we all have in common, right? We can all think of a song that we relate to, a sad time in our life, a time of loss, a time of celebration, right? So thank you for all you do. Keep it up. And I can't wait for Spring Sing.
Thank
It's going to be good.
Oh, quick question for you. So this is a promotional announcement kind of thing. So when is Spring Sing, and is it open to the whole community if they can come up and do it? So when is it, and can they come up?
Spring Sing is on Tuesday, June 2nd. It's at 1:15 We have shuttles running from WCTC to Meadowbrook Park and Ride. And we can also send that information to you as well. And it is open to the public, and everybody.
It's very busy though.
Yeah.
There may be limited seating though.
Limited
We have about 1,200 to 1,500 family and friends and PLE students attend.
And it's in the stadium.
Yeah.
Stadium.
In the stadium.
Last year was the first year that it was in the stadium, so that was kind of a new experience for us to see just how full the stands got. They do get full.
Yeah.
We do also have some folding chairs on the track that can be reserved for ADA accessibility and strollers or So
Fingers crossed on
No
no
severe,
storms.
No severe weather this year.
Yeah.
no more rain. No.
Yes.
Only sun.
How many years have you been doing it now? How many years is the spring?
I've been here for 7 years, but
It's been going on longer than I.
longer than, I want to say 10, 11 maybe
I
years.
believe Julie Perney.
I think Julie brought it,
the
to
tradition
Robin.
from the last district.
So it's been about a decade almost, probably.
Well, I love your enthusiasm. Thank you for all you do for our students. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here.
All right, thank you.
Good luck with the things that are going on here in the next week. So you're in good hands. You got 2 police officers and a labor and delivery nurse, so you're good. In case something goes,
Just in case.
you're covered.
All right.
And I watched the pit, so I
Next, salutes recognitions. Does anyone on the board have a salute tonight?
I feel like we need to salute the robotics team,
absolutely.
Yes.
having some great success. I know that's a really big group. Tammy, I don't know how you do that, all those parent volunteers and advisors and coaches, but wow, just that's really exciting for them.
They have there is a link for a live stream. They start competing on Thursday at World Championships, so we'll make sure you guys have access to that. They're in different groups, and I don't totally get it, but
I know you were gonna try and make it. Did you make it that weekend?
but then I ended up with Caleb up in lacrosse.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Yeah, I was there. I
Oh,
mean,
were
it
you
was
there?
Larry,
Okay.
Larry was texting me,
Stuff,
giving me
it
the
is.
updates.
Towards the end, it gets pretty competitive with those little robots out there. I mean, they have, some of the robots are actually like in defenders. In other words, they'll try to prevent the other team from scoring, and, they're moving around out there and bumping into each other and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was a great day.
Cool.
And it wasn't really until the end, because the Pewaukee team had earned points along the way. So they got kind of bumped down from the bracket. So it's a double elimination track. And then they got knocked out of the double elimination, but they had enough points overall to qualify to go to this national conference, or the world conference actually. So there'll be about 600 teams there, I think, competing in Houston, Texas. And they just,
From all over the world.
all over the world, yeah. So it's a
Very
big,
cool.
big thing for them, so.
Yeah, so Thursday, and the competition starts.
Anyone else from the board? How about admin?
I have somebody, do you have any, Anthony?
I have one. I just want to recognize our 4 building principals. Each of them are in different spots of trying to staff their buildings for next year, different points of the hiring process. Sometimes that means internal staff movement, and I just think that the level of professionalism that they show in wanting to make sure that our students have the best people in the right spots, I think it should be recognized.
Oh, can I go back? Run. We need to recognize John Gahan for that beautiful budget document that I know everybody read cover to cover, word by word. But he got it down to 50-some pages. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you.
That's awesome.
It's getting it lean and mean.
Lean and mean. So John and his team, I know there's a lot
Kudos.
of work that goes into that.
I have, and Anthony, you could help me out if I miss someone, because I might. So a number of people that I think warrant recognition. I'm going to try not to get emotional. But we lost a student last week, and those parents were incredibly grateful to the support that they received from our staff. So a number of people that deserve recognition is right at the top. Brianna Rembert, the counselor at Asa Clark. She was throughout Ian's illness. So much respect for the work that she did. Katie Spadoni, Michelle Davison, Christy Johnson, Nellie Bailey, Brian Siegel, Beth Ingersoll are all people that come to mind. We had Rachel Yerk reaching out as well to her connections so that we had therapy dogs in all 4 buildings after Ian's passing. So just so many people. Is there anybody else that stands out right at the top of that list that were, other than those that I mentioned?
I would probably say Allison Prather,
Yep.
the other counselor at the middle school, and Michelle Seligman, school psych at ASA.
Yeah. So a tragic situation, but an incredible family, an incredible kid, and very proud of just the human, the love that was shown for that family by those staff members. So I want to recognize them.
Thank you. All right. Tammy, do we have any citizen comments? No citizen comments. Thank you. Consent agenda. That consists of meeting minutes from previous meetings. That would be the April 13th business affairs and the regular meeting. Correspondence included in your packet. And once again, some really incredible gifts. Dedicated Computing donated $2,500 to our robotics team. $1,500 was donated from Caliber Collision to the robotics team. And $2,500 was received from Innovative Construction Solutions, also for the high school robotics team. Thank you for these generous gifts of money. I know they will go to good use for our robotics team. Always appreciated when the community and companies give on behalf of our students. So if I could get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. New business. Tonight we have our school resource officers here. We have Larissa and Julie here to present for us.
Come on down.
And they're just going to detail the activity for the past year.
Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Hello. Thanks for having us. So we are going to give you a little update about our being school resource officers. We did add some really fun pictures this year to spice it up.
Love it.
But this was at, obviously, ASA on one of the first days, or maybe it was the preview. Yeah.
They get
Anyway,
the bubbles and everything going.
I know. So I thought that was great.
Spadoni ball
Yeah.
machine.
I'm Julie Budenhagen. I've been a school resource officer since 2018. I've been a police officer since 2004.
Larissa Hildenbrand. I've been a school resource officer since last year and a police officer with Pewaukee since 2021.
So we're going to start off by just kind of explaining some of our roles. We are a member of the safety committee. We are very honored to be a crossing guard coordinator. It's actually a bigger job than we expected. We have a lot of moving parts when it comes to crossing guards and safety. Because it's a part-time position, we often have times when people can't make it. So we fill in, or we try to find subs for them. We're an important member of our BTAM, Behavioral Threat Assessment Team. That has evolved over the years, and it's so important. We're in every building being a part of that team, and we're really happy that we're a part of that team to do that. We're a guest speaker in classrooms. I still teach life skills over at Horizon Elementary to the 5th grade, which again is very similar to the same curriculum as DARE, just a little bit different, but it's really nice to be able to get into the 5th grade classrooms and get to know the students and talk about life skills in those 8 lessons. We're a liaison for complaints with parking. This can be on campus or off campus. Some years are better than others, but we're working, on trying to remedy that parking situation. And then we are a medical alert first responder. We did get the anti-bullying ordinance passed. That was one of our goals last year, was to have an ordinance for bullying, because we were referring some of these cases to our juvenile district attorney's office. We were getting a response kind of late, maybe months later, that either they weren't going to charge the case, or they were going to kind of give it back to us for like a disorderly conduct citation. So this is something that we worked hard on getting passed. It can hold parents accountable as well as students. We try to use this as an educational piece first by warning them and just documenting everything from the very beginning of any type of report of bullying. We're not trying to step on anybody's constitutional rights, but when somebody is threatened or harassed, that's something that we have to look at. So again, the big part for me is that accountability piece, especially if we have, for example, younger students, maybe middle school, that don't understand kind of the severity of some of these situations if they're cyberbullying somebody online. The offenses and the amounts are on there. Usually it would be a warning before the first offense, and then our judge is pretty good about working with juveniles and any cases that come into our court. I'm gonna pass on to Larissa.
So, along with crossing guard duty, we also do a lot of other special events here at the school. So we'll work homecoming, any dances at the high school or Asa Clark, graduations. We're there for football and basketball games. We do a lot of the police escorts for state send-offs. We do help out with Spring Sing as well, which you all just heard about. We do a couple career day presentations. Reality store we also help out with. We do our fire and Alice and weather drills. Safety committee meetings we're a part of, board meetings, canine searches. We'll have a canine come in every once in a while and search the high school and Asa Clark, and we do a lot of presentations throughout the schools.
You guys have any dances prepared for Spring Sing?
We were not asked, no.
Well, I'll let them know that, if they ask.
Still time.
I like golden, so we're playing.
There you go. There you go. There's some opportunities.
Aside from helping out at the school district, we also do, or I in particular, I'm a community resource officer, so I'll help out a lot in the community with community events. Our mission with that is bridging the gap between law enforcement and our community, forming these lasting relationships with juveniles throughout the community. So a lot of those events are really important to us. Julie founded our Shop with Cops event, and when was that? 1850, yeah, a long time ago. I kind of took that over for her this last year and the year before. So that's one that we're really proud of. We help out at the Pewaukee Farmers Market. We'll have our squad there. National Night Out is one that we're also really proud of. We recently, the last 2 years, have done it here on the school district, which has been a big help in getting people to come out. We have a lot of space to work with, and we get a lot of really cool community engagement there. We just did our community autism event this weekend, so we'll go out to We Rock the Spectrum and let the kids, meet a police officer, kind of bridge that gap again, talking to the kids and letting them see what we're all about. They get to draw on our squad car with markers, so they really like to do that. On our squad car, they drew 6-7 all over the place. That was a big thing. They drew it right on the white, and so it did not come off in the car wash. So there's a big 6-7 on one of our squads if you're looking hard enough. We do trunk or treats at Waukesha County Fairgrounds, and we do a lot of Girl Scout and Boy Scout tours at the police department. Our National Night Out, again, will be held here Wednesday, August 5th. Feel free to come out. It's great. We have our own Dan Deuce at PLE who has offered to be our taser volunteer. So if you want to come and check that out, he did that willingly. Only took a little bit of convincing, but he is going to be getting tased. So feel free to come and check that out.
I'd come check that out.
Get my popcorn and pull up a chair. See how Dan takes that.
These are just a few photos from our community events. We have our National Night Out on the left. Julie was in the dunk tank for a little bit. That was really fun. We do our Shop with Cops on the right there, a couple of pictures there, and then that is a Girl Scout tour on the top right. So we have a lot of fun.
Okay, so our priorities, obviously maintain a safe and secure campus for all staff and students. It's always number one for us. Building relationships with staff and students, which is so important. Again, behavioral threat assessment. That is something that we're doing a little bit, I feel like more frequently this year. And we're just really trying to keep it the same in all schools, how we would handle certain things. Obviously with using care in the age of the student and the concern. We're gonna try to continue to combat vaping devices, some that have THC in our schools. We've talked about getting vape detectors in bathrooms. It's a cost that we have to kind of figure out, but that is something that we're hoping to maybe implement or try. It's really important for Larissa and I to continue educating kids on a lot of internet crimes, including sextortion. We're seeing a lot more, not necessarily just in our district or community, but just around the state of Wisconsin and nationwide. It is getting more and more prevalent, and our more popular kids and athletes are being targeted. And what's really important for our job too is to network with other local school resource officers. If there's ever an issue at one school, we kind of have this big group network that we can send a message out on, hey, are you guys seeing this? How are you handling it? And we're really working on trends and combating that, and how can we be proactive? We are promoting Speak Up, Speak Out and our Crime Stoppers, which I think is really important for students, because a lot of times they want to speak up, but they want to be anonymous, and Speak Up, Speak Out allows them to do that. Crime Stoppers also does. We are a part of Crime Stoppers, so if a student does make a report, they can remain anonymous and they can actually get money if what they tell us provides some information. So whether that would be like a criminal damage to property complaint that came about, or that another student has a vape, that's something that ultimately, if we find one or if the administration finds one, we can give them money or cash for that. Our goals for next year, again, internet safety is huge. We are going to be working on trying to do some community presentations, as well as for students and parents. It's always a challenge getting parents here with all the activities that happen after school, but we're going to do our best to find a way to do a newsletter or a short video clip to send out. Building those student relationships is really, really important. We see that not only for just having that like positive interaction with students, but also for mental health and just doing check-ins. So there's a few students who I feel like trust us and will come in and check in with us, which we love. Really strive to keep the environment here safe so that students and staff can learn without having to worry about any of that, because that's an extra stress they don't need. And then we are always attending the school safety conference, which is super important. We had that one, was it February? Yeah. I don't know. We had that one this year, and then ICAC we had, our Internet Crimes Against Children, we had a week or two ago, and then our SRO conference comes up in summer. Juvenile mental health is a really strong focus for us. We're trying to attend as many trainings or webinars as we can to fully understand. We were honored to be asked to speak at the NAMI conference in Wisconsin Dells along with Mrs. Davison and Mrs. Molini this year. One of the reasons we have been doing presentations for NAMI locally, and a lot of it is on juvenile behavior and mental health and how we handle things as school resource officers. What really intrigued them about our setup is that our school district has two different law enforcement jurisdictions that cover our families. And what we do, we have a really good relationship with the city of Pewaukee, so if they deal with any of our students, whether they're a witness of something, a victim, sometimes when they get in trouble, but they relay that information to us so that we know that student might need some extra support when they come into school, so we can kind of get student services together and kind of be ready for that. We don't have to be nosy and say, hey, how are you doing? But just kind of have extra eyes on that student. So we're really honored to do that presentation. It will be in June. Again, parking improvement. It seems that we're always running out of spots, or people just aren't sure where they're parking, or maybe it's the students thinking that they should be able to park in the staff lot. So we're still getting there. And then we really appreciate being able to use the Pewaukee School District for our training. So rescue task force training with our fire department's been really important, because this is a type of setting that we're going to need that in. If you don't know what rescue task force is, it's kind of in the heat of an active threat where we may have people or students that need medical treatment, but because there still could be a hot zone where there could still be a suspect, we have to move in with the fire department tactically and come in and kind of have a staging area. So we're able to provide treatment versus back in the day, like in Columbine, where everybody was just kind of sitting there until the scene was clear. Now we are working in to do a tactical approach with our fire department to get medical supplies and treatment and evac patients. Active threat training, we've had alert training here, which is the active shooter training that was really, really good. And then any other law enforcement training that we can do here. So we greatly appreciate that.
Julie kind of already touched on sextortion, but this is something that we're really trying to hammer in the schools, especially in Asa Clark, because the victims are getting younger and younger, and we're seeing more and more of these reports. So in 2024, we had about 230 plus reports relayed to the cyber tip line. In 2025, it jumped to over 650, and this was as of January 28th. So at the beginning of the year, we already had 60 reports. So we're on trend to keep that number to keep increasing. And in 2024 alone, reports of online enticement to this cyber tip line increased by 192%. So it's not something that we take lightly. We're really trying to let parents and students know about this, and not necessarily to scare them, but to teach them like what to do if you are a victim of it. Because it's so important. We're losing kids because of it, and that's not something we want to happen here. So we're really trying to teach them what to do if you are a victim, and know that there are people that can help you and ways that we can help, you know, more than just being a support system for them, but online when it comes to getting things taken down and stuff like that. So again, it's not anything that we're trying to scare them with, but we just want to make them aware of it, especially as kids are getting cell phones younger and younger and might not have any restrictions as to their online phone use. It is really scary out there. We are also trying to get more presentations for parents. We do struggle with getting them, like Julie said. We are trying to do that more and more, again, to make them aware of it, and so that they can have those conversations with their kids at home about what to do and what not to do online, and what they can do if they are victims. So moving on to our school year calls for service. At the high school, we had 222 calls for service. At Asa Clark, it jumps down to 13. Horizon is 10, and PLE is 13 as well. To kind of break apart the high school, so 168 calls are extra patrols, so that number shouldn't scare you as much. It's officers who are coming up here maybe on third shift and driving around the parking lots, making sure everything's good. Especially when we had all that construction going on, they were up here a lot more frequently to make sure that everything's locked up, tools aren't being taken, things like that. People aren't getting into the building. So that's a lot of what is going on up here. A large 15 calls for service were special events, so whether that's like a dance or a football game, basketball game. We had a few thefts, some drug complaints at the high school for vapes and THC vapes, a couple accidents on campus, disabled vehicles and lockouts, truancy calls, and then disorderly conducts. We had 3 of them, and then one juvenile problem, and then 15 other calls for service. So that kind of just encapsulated anything else that might happen up here. And that is all we have. So does anyone have any questions for us?
I do. Very appreciative of the anti-bullying ordinance that are you nervous? Don't be nervous.
I was looking over here.
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
Because the speaker, I'm throwing my voice. So anyway, I'm very grateful to you for getting that anti-bullying ordinance passed. And I don't know if it's too early, but are you able to say anecdotally even, do you see this having a positive impact in reducing the number of bullying things, or do you feel more effective in your job with it?
So kind of like the sexting ordinance, when we got that enacted, we didn't use it right away, and we haven't. What I liked about it, I know we got a lot of mixed feedback from like the media and citizens, but that's what got people talking, I think, about it. And good or bad, like I was happy that it was something that families were talking about, the community was talking about, whether they were for it or not, just to be aware of it. So I think it helped. And again, kind of like the sexting ordinance, it wasn't used right away. Now we're kind of using that one more. So we'll see. But I just like the fact that it was more public, and we did get that discussion going.
Good, thank you.
Julie, you've been around a long time, and the mission statement was there, your mission. Has that pretty much stayed consistent during the time that you're here, and are there any potential modifications to that that would be appropriate or not? But
I think the mission itself has stayed the same. I think it really went from having one officer up here, kind of just reacting to everything, to, thanking Dr. Cady for getting a second school resource officer, because it makes it more proactive, and that relationship building is really, really important with staff and students. It's I don't care what time people call me, but I will get calls or text messages from staff with a concern, and I have no problem, answering the same with Larissa. So I think our mission's the same. We're seeing our roles still evolve. Again, the behavioral threat assessments was something new when I first started, and seeing how those are helping support students. I think it was looked at negatively, a threat assessment, and we're thinking they're just, maybe the stigma of, that's just a bad kid, or, they made this threat, where it's really not. It's us supporting them if they made a threat, or maybe they said something that just wasn't appropriate, and really getting to the reason and the why that they said that, and how we can help. So I think it's evolved a little bit, but our mission, I really think, is the same.
Well, thank you for being consistent and staying here that long. I think you've taken it, and you've really integrated yourselves into the school district, and the basic, your priority was that build those relations between staff and students, and I think it shows in the sense, that when you're here, students interact with you. It's not like you're a foreign person, if you will. They know who you are, and they enjoy having you around, I hope, in terms of what's there. Same thing at PLE and wherever you hang out too, so.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, they both alluded to the work with the crossing guards, and that's a real unique relationship we have with the village on that. We employ the crossing guards, but the oversight and training and the awareness of what is going on is provided by here, where before we would have to communicate and then have somebody come up and investigate. These guys are on top of it all the time. So improving the campus safety and the whole arrival and departure at the end of the day, they're right on top of it as things are happening, and addressing those issues through that partnership and that collaboration. It's been a great work they're doing.
I'll even acknowledge Tammy. Tammy has jumped in and helped fill a gap when we've had a missing crossing guard. A couple of times she was out there with her stop sign in her vest. So I just want to, we're so fortunate to have the two of you in these positions. They get what the role is, and it's, they can do the law enforcement things that need to happen, right? If something goes down and we need that, they're more than capable of handling those things. But they're not here with the goal of writing citations, and sometimes people have this vision about police in schools, but I want to emphasize resource, right? It's a school resource officer. They are a tremendous resource. I feel, in my tenure here, I think the fact that we have the school resource program is one of the things I'm most proud of. I think it's one of the best things that we've done over the last 8 years, because this campus is safer, and they just bring such tremendous resources to bear. If there's any concern, I can text either of them. They get right back to me. Our ability to respond to things, whether it's the behavioral assessments, but they also understand that it is about the relationships, and Larry talked about it. The idea is that, we want our kids and our staff to see our police officers for what they are, which are partners. They're there to help us. And this isn't about someone that they're going to be in trouble with. It can be, and we all have to be accountable to those things if that's the case. But I just really want to acknowledge they both do a great job. They understand the role very well, so they're just a great fit for the program. So thank you both for the job that you do.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much for being here tonight.
All right, next we have the high school technology and engineering curriculum adoption, and Anthony Pizzo is going to speak to us on that.
All right, so before I start, I just want to introduce, we have Ben Lamp and Nelson Brownell here. They are the ones that are kind of going to give you all a deep dive into what some of the new courses are that we have specific here at the high school. But for the start of it, generally speaking, you guys always get the full CTE curriculum adoption at the same time. We held off with Pewaukee High School Tech Ed and Engineering, specifically because we weren't going to be running those classes until the new spaces were done and opened. So some of this you have seen last year when you got the rest of the CTE curriculum, but they'll talk a little bit about the specifics for the courses at the high school. So a couple things. When we start curriculum renewal, the first part of that is really digging into the research and what is research saying about, in this case, technology and engineering instruction at the high school level, and then also what are some of those best practices that align with that research. So when our staff dug into that review last year and the year before, you can look up here. There are many things that were pulled out, but there is one common theme, and I think that theme is this having a program that prepares students to be able to, if they would like, have the skills and enter into fields in that kind of CTE lane. So that clearly came through in a lot of that research that was conducted by the individuals on the curriculum renewal team. From that, then, the group really takes that information and they develop value statements. And those value statements should guide all of the decision making throughout the curriculum renewal process. So if you look at the value statements that were created by our CTE curriculum team, you can see that there are numerous connections there to our graduate profile competencies, but really wanting students to have authentic and hands-on experiences, wanting them to have the ability to connect with professionals in those fields of interest, really focusing on that critical thinking and problem solving, and then also really wanting those students to contribute not only to our school community, but to our community at large. Specifically then, the high school tech ed department focused on two specific values that they thought were a bit more pertinent to them, specific to their department, and those were really focusing on hands-on technical skills with innovation and critical thinking, and then preparing students for those 21st century careers with ethical workplace practices. So I'm going to hand it over to Nelson first here, and he's going to kind of walk through some of the changes.
Hello. I'm Nelson Brownell, and this is my fifth year at Pewaukee High School. Starting off, just engineering, kind of our pathways. We're a PLTW program as far as our engineering goes, so most of these classes are PLTW, which is Project Lead the Way. The only class that isn't is actually our new class, which is Basic Electronics. So Basic Electronics we decided to add to our curriculum for engineering because there's a huge gap between students knowing electronics and that digital electronics class that's Project Lead the Way. We want to kind of cover that gap with students, and since electronics are part of everything that we touch nowadays, the more students know about electronics, the better they can be in the future. So we're trying to close that gap with the Basic Electronics class. Manufacturing graphics. This is the section that the pathway that definitely changed the most. This is super exciting what we're doing. We kind of split, we have a lot of year-long classes currently. We split them into semester classes and kind of created two pathways that students can go down. So one is more of a design focused, where one is more of a hands-on technical skills side of things. So the PHS STEAM design, much like our middle school class at 6th grade level, and now 7th, they get that understanding. At the high school level, we transfer their skills to the next level in software mostly. So we're teaching them new software like Adobe Illustrator, Fusion 360, or Autodesk Inventor, and taking those skills to the next level so that students can do that design work. And then applying that design work to wood makers and metal makers in those two classes. Kind of looking at kind of what students could do if they get a shop or something inside their house. What are projects or things that they can do in that? And then the technical side of things, if students really want to go down into the path of manufacturing, We have manufacturing methods, which is an intro level. They get both woods and metals within a semester. It's a really quick hit on everything so that they can experience it all, and then they can dive deeper into one of those sections based on metals machinery or that furniture and cabinet making class. And then our print methods and design are pretty much the same as before, but then the capstone kind of to culminate it all is pirate manufacturing, which students will create projects and use their skills that they learned in those classes of design and the technical aspect and create the projects with possible customers. Our graphics ink class is also getting kind of absorbed into that. So our t-shirt making that we do for the district and for other outside community sources will be a part of that pirate manufacturing. So those are all the new classes that we have. Again, we changed the standards to meet the current stuff, but huge redesign. We got brand new spaces, so let's use the new spaces for new classes, which I'm super excited about. Tying classes to industry. I hope to speak to you soon about our Pewaukee Business Alliance that we've been doing. I know a couple of you have attended. We have one on Friday this week, Friday, if you want to come. Just talking with industry, making sure that what we're doing in the classroom actually aligns to what students can do outside of the room. And then the design versus that process split that we did, and then also having that student-led project class for our pirate manufacturing. And then our architecture and construction pathway, not much has changed as far as this pathway goes, but we did add a home maintenance class. We find that students don't really know a lot about the home that they're actually living in. So we want to kind of teach them some skills so that if they go own a home later on in life, they can fix a hole that they made in the drywall or do some very little home maintenance stuff that we probably all have had to learn over the years as we have a home.
Anyway, can I audit that class?
I was gonna say, can school board members take that class? So I could use that.
I need to jump in.
And then the only other thing that we really did with this pathway is we reorganized the units within our two construction foundations and trades so that it's a continuous. So foundations will be first semester building the foundation of the walls that we do, and then the trades is focusing more on the trades within the construction field.
All right, so from a budgetary standpoint, this is a rather small budget because most of the CTE was approved last year. So I can tell you specifically that $7,500 is specific to purchasing VEX robot kits for one of the Project Lead the Way classes. But other than that, most of the needs have already been met. I do want to recognize Ben. Ben has been a tremendous asset to the district and to the department when it comes to securing grant funding. Ben, just in the last year, what would your guess be as far as the amount of funds that you've been able to find from the grant process?
Grants last year was like $110,000. Wow. FIA money last couple of years, close to probably $12,000 for that.
Yeah, so Ben does an outstanding job at looking down the avenue of grant funding to make sure that we have great things for our students in those spaces. So as far as the specific curriculum outlines, we're trying something different this year. In the past, you guys went to our Atlas site, that's our curriculum warehouse. I have direct links set up for all of you that will take you directly to the course unit plans. Ultimately, it's the same information, but it allows us to not then put it on Atlas until you approve it as a board. So those direct links, you will have access to all of those classes. Additionally, that has been posted on the Teaching and Learning website. So if you are talking with community members and they wanted to check it out, they can access it there as well. And it's also linked here in the slide deck for today's meeting. So ultimately, between now and our next meeting, which is May 18th, that's kind of our review period. So if you're looking through that and you have questions or you would like to meet or you talk to a community member that would like to meet, I will always make myself available to walk through those with you and answer any questions, but all of that should be there for your review. Any questions for me or Ben or Nelson? Larry.
Go back to slide 12, if it's the same one. No, let's see. It's not that, one where you have the dual enrollment on it.
Yep.
That one. So can you talk a little bit more about apprenticeship types of things, but then whatever the CTE co-op, but also dual enrollment? I mean, are we pushing, or not pushing necessarily, but promoting that extensively in terms of the dual enrollment and then any kind of apprenticeships that are out there?
Do you want to talk about YA?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so starting last year, we kind of made a push to get more students enrolled in youth apprenticeship. Last year we had 5. This year we're up to 8 that are currently at the high school, plus another 4 in GPS. So we're trying to get more students out into that youth apprenticeship program. It's a little bit of a shift away from that CTE co-op experience. If you want me to, I can explain a little bit about the difference between the two.
I mean, but the youth apprenticeship programs, I mean, that should be something that we should be growing, right? I mean,
Yeah, yep. And that's kind of the trajectory that we're on right now, Larry. So next year, it's hard for me to say exactly how many we're going to get because we took some students to a hiring event 2 weeks ago. Students will find jobs on their own. We're still connecting with employers. I think we have 5 juniors, current juniors, that are going to continue it to next year. So I'm hoping that number continues to go up. My goal for next year is to get probably like 15 between us and GPS.
Do you know what areas of apprenticeship or what programs are in?
Sure. So we've had most of them in construction trades. We've had one student that's been doing IT, youth apprenticeship, for the past couple years. He's leaving, so we're hoping to fill that role at Generac with another one of our Pewaukee students. We've done nursing in the past. We don't have any nursing students this year, but we do have one that's doing dental. And then we have one in culinary as well. So probably our biggest room for growth would be in that manufacturing and culinary realm. And then continuing to hoping to find like some of our CNA students placements out in the workforce as well, in hospitals and long-term care facilities and things like that. So, yeah.
Dual enrollment, tell me more about that and how many students we have going into that.
I'm not exactly sure how many dual enrollment we have next year.
I can look that up, but that was, so when Start College Now and Early College Credit Program approval comes to the board, dual enrollment is included in that. So the difference between dual enrollment and Start College Now, both tech school related. Start College Now allows students to take kind of individual classes. Now they could choose classes that would move them further towards an associate's degree, but that dual enrollment is they're accepted into a program that's specific to, like, firefighting, or there's a specific program that they're in, and all those courses then are aligned with that program, and it's an early pathway to an associate's degree.
Yeah, and they actually will have a graduation ceremony coming up sometime in May.
Yep.
And I just, coincidentally, he's one of the students that's on the robotics team, but he's apparently interested in the HVAC kind of world. So he's been doing the stuff down at WCTC and does the stuff there, but still in the high school too. So I mean, it's a great program. I wish we could get more kids because it's right next door. So.
And I think the challenge that they are seeing is there are some programs that are extremely popular. So there's not a guarantee that students will get accepted into dual enrollment academies, which is why a lot of them then will have alternatives that are just in that Start College Now, where they're just signing up for individual courses then.
I'm curious, so if you have students that say, I'm interested in other trades such as electrician, plumber, HVAC, do we currently have coursework that at least can get them started on the basics of those trades? Talk to me about that.
So actually in these construction classes, so we do, if you come down to the shops now, we actually have little walls that are like 4 feet tall. And I walk students through basic electricity. We're in plumbing right now. We'll finish up with drywall. Our HVAC we haven't done a whole lot with. We plan on implementing a little bit more in next year. We do some sheet metal work in our metals classes currently, so they get a little bit of that in there. But we are looking at expanding kind of why we reorganize some things so we can open up some more things in our classes.
I'll just make
Another quick point about that. Part of the youth apprenticeship requirements is that they're also enrolled in a concurrent class related to their field that they're in. So if they are doing an HVAC apprenticeship, they should be enrolled in one of the construction classes, home maintenance, at the bare minimum, a manufacturing class, so they're working with sheet metal or things like that. So that is part of the program as well, that they either have to be enrolled here or CTC, getting some college credit, and particularly in the avenue that they want to pursue that career in.
Awesome, thank you.
Other questions?
Open House Wednesday.
Yep. You get to see them on Wednesday night and see
And
some
so
things in
the
action.
other plug that I want to put in, and because I think Stacey made the comment, oh, I would love to learn how to do that. So something we're doing this summer from a staff development standpoint is through our Summer Professional Development Academy. We are Nelson, Ben, Allie Olson, really some of those folks in those new spaces down there. They're going to run mini sessions for our own staff so that we can think about how we can integrate the use of those spaces into some of our other curricular areas. But I would open it up to the board. If any of you wanted to participate, they would love to have you. Like, so Larry, if you want to get on the potter's wheel and make a pot, and Stacey, if you want to patch some drywall.
I need to learn how to patch some drywall. I got some issues going on at home.
Well, quit punching holes in your wall.
No.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you Wednesday.
All right. Next, Waukesha County Special Education Consortium Agreement. Anthony Strachey.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Tony.
So since 1989, we've been part of the Waukesha County Special Education Cooperative that's ran out of Elmbrook. And we received 2 services out of there, deaf and hard of hearing and audiology specialists. So the deaf and hard of hearing teacher is here, and they work in collaboration with one another. And whenever we have a student with hearing deficits, they develop the programming and meet with the students and ensure that they have what they need. One of the benefits of the consortium is that we do not purchase the equipment. And when kids are very little, they cycle through equipment as they're growing and developing. So it's a huge benefit there. A couple of years ago, we did a full-scale analysis on what it would cost if we went in a different direction, and the costing is quite considerable. So we have a total of 6 students that receive both services in special education, and my recommendation is to approve the Waukesha County 6603 so that we can continue to get those services. One of the other challenges in the state of Wisconsin is there's a huge shortage of audiologists and deaf and hard of hearing teachers. So CISA 1 struggled to hire one last year. So does anybody have any questions for me about the 6603?
I move to approve the Waukesha County Special Education Cooperative Contract for the 2026-27 school year as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, John's gonna present the first draft of the 26-27 budget and staffing proposal.
42 pages.
52.
Does that include the covers? Or?
So you said it was shorter this year.
It is shorter. It is shorter, right?
It is shorter. That's with the appendices.
Sarah, how many pages next year?
Challenge laid.
Well, thank you for taking some time. This presentation of this preliminary operating budget for the district is really a step in a year-long process that we have. This starts in, we finished one budget in October. We start in November with the next one, with senior leaders reviewing our projection for the following year. It really ramps up with the principals and all the department heads throughout the spring of the year. All that work gets pulled together to fit the revenues that we have with the expenses that we project to have for the next year, and keeping the focus. So as we look at this, the beauty of this district has always been the K-12-ness of the decision making. I think you heard Anthony say it earlier, it might have been in committee, about professionals, colleagues working together to do what's in the best interest of the kids at the end of the day. While it might not benefit their district, their building this year, or their department this year, it's always got that focus on what are we doing to meet that mission of opening the door for each of the kids. We also try to be very conservative on the estimates that we're using, especially when there's a lot of unknowns in the budget development. Now is the time in in school finance and public school finance. There's a lot of unknowns. So I want to make you aware of some of those things tonight as we go through this proposal. I can bring your attention to the materials you got in the executive summary, which is on page 3 of that, and that really gives you the highlights of what this washes together, trying to get it on one page so you really got those talking points of what it's about. It's a balanced budget. You hear a lot of places out there, and in fact, I heard last year a statistic close to 40% of school districts ended up with deficit spending in the state of Wisconsin. It is getting that tight. In my 34 years, this is one of the tightest environments that it comes to building a budget because the resources aren't there, and the demands for additional resources are higher than ever with the accountability that's being put on public schools. The staffing plan starts it all. And this really is the brunt of the work. Almost 80% of an operating budget is built on personnel cost. If you add in those personnel costs that we contract out, you're topping 90% of your operating budget is tied to people and how we're delivering services, either our own staff or staff that we're hiring, because we can do it less expensive by contracting out with some of those services. For example, transportation. Leave it to the experts to provide that transportation. They can do it more cost effectively than what we could do as a district. Just a year ago, we approached this in May and June, and we were in a biennial budget development process. And one of the things in that budget development process was a commitment. It was really pushing the legislature to fund special education at a higher level. The cost of providing special education are far exceeding the resources that are available to fund that at a higher level. The budget was adopted on estimates that the legislature received, and was to provide 42% reimbursement of those costs this year and 45% in 26-27 fiscal year. Because those estimates were below what has actually happened, this current year we're looking at about 38.5% as a reimbursement instead of 42%. Next year, it looks like the allocation is going to be somewhere around 39 to 39.5%. I'm going to revisit that one in a minute. And then just all of the costs with staff recruitment. And when we look at different positions, not just teaching positions, but vacancies that we have through custodians, food service, and finding staff and keeping staff in those positions, because there's a lot of available jobs for them. We've seen a lot of turnover in the last couple of years in those support roles that are critical to managing the district. So right now, at the state level, we're going through a process of looking at a budget surplus. The surplus is identified of somewhere around $2.5 billion, was the latest that I've heard on what that's at. And key issues in there are that special education funding. Can we meet that commitment of 42 and 45% by utilizing a portion of that? Another big topic is property tax relief. Last fiscal year, the average statewide property tax bill went up over 7.5% for schools, 7.5%. This year, it's projected about the same. Last year, we ended up about 2.75% change in our levy. This year, we're projecting it at about 3.73. We'll talk more about that later in the presentation. In the debate that is happening in Madison about how to use this surplus, two of the key elements that are agreed upon by everybody are funding special education. What that level is could be significant for us. If it goes to 45%, instead of what we're projecting right now, we're talking close to $300,000 for a district of additional resources that are spendable. Key parts about public finance, school finance: predictable, sustainable, and spendable resources. Predictable, sustainable, and spendable resources are key when it comes to the development of the budget. That property tax relief can come in many different forms. It can come through the statewide average by putting it into the equalization aid pot, and I'll explain how that happens. Or it could come in the form of tax credits. Tax credits don't have the transparency that the aid would have. They are applied to the gross levies of all districts across the state, and a prorated share of that pot of money is distributed to reduce property tax bills before they're sent out. So if it goes into property tax credits, we would still see the same 3.73% increase, but the net impact on the taxpayers would be lower if it goes into that pot. Some of the highlights, our operating budget going up 1.8%. When you think about from a collective bargaining standpoint, the CPI for collective bargaining this year is 2.63% going into next year. So our available resources are less than what that contract value is that's out there. Health insurance, trend is 8 to 10%, 12%, depending on where you are, in cost that is driving that. All of the contracts we have exceed that, which means through this budget development process, we need to address a deficit. From what we projected in November, $500,000 plus that deficit was that we needed to balance out to reconcile the budget. And I'm proud to say that the teamwork of the administrators and department heads and everybody who helped compile this thing, we're able to put a budget together that we're very confident we can be successful with the resources that we have available. I talked about the levy a little bit. It is also a decrease in the mill rate. And I'll show a slide on that and what that's looked like for the last 15 years. And we're doing this with a projected decrease in our resident enrollment. You can see a 0.93 is a little bit lower than we've been talking about. We talked about slightly over 1%. I'm anticipating, we use about 15 different models and looking at them as to what projected enrollment would look like. In the short term, they're very tight, and there's a range. We saw from September of 25 to January of 2026 an increase of 12 resident students. Used to be a very good indicator of what was going to happen in the fall. Now it really tempers that decline because of the smaller grades coming in at the younger ages of resident students. So while we don't anticipate seeing as great of a decrease as last year, it's still a decrease that we're projecting for enrollment. Driven by the strategic plan, these 6 pillars that you have up here are really the focus. So when we're looking at allocating resources and asking the department heads and principals when they're proposing their budget, where in the strategic plan, what are those resources allocated to, and where are they going to be able to support the execution of that strategic plan and making those improvements in the district. So even though we have less, how are we going to do better with that? And that's really the focus on how do we get those resources to where they belong. Financial summary, looking at this, again, 1.87%. I'm going to call your attention to the bottom 2 lines on this slide where we talk about our general fund balance. As you can see, at $10.66 million at the end of the 24-25 fiscal year, both in 25-26 and 26-27, because we're projecting a balanced budget, that number stays the same, but costs are still increasing. So we're going up in expenses. That reduces that percent of your fund balance. You can see that graphically here where you see convergence on those 2 lines. It has been quite a while since back in 2007, 2008, where the board adopted a policy to say our goal is to maintain 15% of our operating expenses, that's the green line on here, as a minimum fund balance within the district. As costs go up and we don't have the capacity to add to those reserves on an annual basis, it creates more and more pressure on items like cash flow borrowing. When we do tax and revenue anticipation notes or a line of credit, we want to maintain that separation in there. I remember when I first started in 2005, the question was, how much fund balance does a district need in order to, or what should your fund balance be? And it's different for every district. Our number, 30 to 35%, would put us comfortably not to have to borrow because of where we fall in the aid payment schedule from the state and when we get our taxes. So that's probably the magic number, but that will fluctuate on an annual basis also. All right, let's talk about revenues now. Now we're going to focus just on the general fund. So when we talk about operating budget, we're talking about Fund 10 and 27, the general fund plus the special education fund combined. That's where all of our cost of operations are housed. Now we focus just on the general fund. You can see the big blue circle there, that's local sources. Because of where we fall in the state aid formula with high property values, even though we're a lower spending district, our high property values say we don't need as much state aid to have the same effort from our taxpayers as the rest of the state. So we receive less state aid and have a higher reliance on property taxes within our district. The green represents the state aid. It's about 29% of our general fund revenues are from state equalization aid that we receive. This also gives evidence to the importance of open enrollment to our district. About $3.9 million a year in revenue. That red slice in there is the importance of open enrollment. In the last biennium, funding for open enrollment was increased by, I'll say, over $1,900 over the 2 years of the biennium. That created even a greater emphasis on the importance of the open enrollment when, through even the increase of $325 to our revenue limit, doesn't generate enough just to cover operating costs year over year. So open enrollment becomes a key element of our financial picture. Another look at another angle on the general fund revenues as we look, and the key piece to look at up here is those top two lines between property tax levy in the general fund and state aid, about $425,000. Those represent our revenue limit for the district. It's the total of property taxes and state aid. So about $425,000 is the increase there. You can see the impact of the increase to open enrollment here of about $417,000. So that the increase in funding for open enrollment generated almost as much revenue as the revenue limit did for us in this proposal for our budget. Again, a total of about $739,000 of an increase. Over time, when we talk about spendable revenues or additional revenues, it's either generated by an increase to the revenue limit, or in this case, also per pupil aid. Per pupil aid was introduced as a way to distribute the same amount of money to every district. So it started off at $50 per pupil because the revenue limit was only increased by $50. Through the years, when revenue limit had zero or no increase, funding was provided for additional resources through this per pupil aid as an alternative. That way you could say all 425 districts, every student got an additional $250, or the following year, on top of that $250, another $200 to get to $450. So the balance of those two really became the spendable element of increases to revenues year over year. Still focusing on revenue limit. Our revenue limit, again, is that combination of state aid and taxes. And if you look at the last 2 years, that red bar is getting bigger. That's a direct result of the last biennial budget where $0 were put into the equalization aid formula. So any increase to the revenue limit fell on the local taxpayers. And that's one of the reasons why statewide we see that 7.5% increase in property taxes, because the funding that was put into education was not put into the equalization aid pot. The allowable increase to the revenue limit would be fully borne by local communities. I put this one in here because this is just another look at the revenue limit and putting it in a bill. That dark bar in there gives you an idea of how much of our budget, of our operating or general fund budget, or operating budget total, 10 and 27, is impacted by that revenue limit. So almost 80% of our revenues are tied to what that increase is and allowable. It also demonstrates the importance of open enrollment tuition in here. As we talked about, 9.2% of our revenues for our operating budget are generated by open enrollment. And that other state aid, that's that per pupil aid that I was talking about. That's primarily made up of that per pupil aid. So spendable outside of the revenue limit or inside of the revenue limit is really the point there. Operating expenses, where does the money go? So we talked about revenues. On the expense side, salaries and benefits, 78.5% of our budget is for our people that we have within the district delivering that curriculum and that instruction every year. Purchase services, 17% plus. It takes you almost 93% of our total operating budget is people. It's services that we're buying, or it's people that we employ in the district. Just to give you an idea how we compare to the rest of the county, this is all the K-12 districts in the county, and we are on the far right there at $15,339. This would have been in the 24-25 fiscal year when we had the full data from everybody. So we are a low spending district in the county relative to everyone else. This shows you what's happened with our enrollment. 2019 is the top bar there. That was the last year that we had the third Friday in September, and in March, COVID hit, and this is what districts across the state experienced. One of the things you'll see here is that big drop, that it was almost a 3% drop in students from the fall of 19 to the fall of 2020. Happened statewide, and that is really, when you look at our projections for enrollment, that can skew your numbers. So if you're looking 8 years ago, you had a 3% drop, it will, on your 7, 8, 9, 10-year projections, it's going to show a steeper drop because it's going to be calculated based off of a faster decline. That's why last year when we talked about at some point here, I believe we are going to flatten. This curve is going to flatten on the decline. If I look at our 3, 4, 5-year projections based on cast forward survival methods, we have a much slower decline in enrollment. Now, on a district our size, the variable from top to bottom on those projections is about 60 students by 2032. So not a huge gap, big impact on the revenue limit, but relatively tight in the projections that we're looking at. In our budget, we're projecting about 354 kids incoming through open enrollment, about 111 students that are outgoing. So we receive $11,030 roughly for every student who's coming in through open enrollment. We pay that for every student that's going out through open enrollment. So the net revenue on that is just about $2 million, over $2 million that we'll have for this year. Here again is statewide from our state organization from WASBO, looking at enrollment. As you can see here, that decline statewide. The decline is greater in rural districts than it is in rural and urban districts have a faster decline, have had and are projected to have, than suburban districts have been experiencing or are projected to experience. But again, you can see it's slow. By 2033, 34, in the next 8 years, we're looking at a decline of about 7.5%. I mentioned earlier the staffing plan is key. So we spend a ton of time in January, and this is a really student-centric process for developing a staffing plan. Our staffing plan at the secondary level, middle and high school, is driven by student selection and course selection. So a lot of the allocation of staff is to meet the demand of what the student population and the parents are looking at for the district. As you can see, we've got a decrease in our total teaching staff of about 0.82 in this proposal. And the specifics for the different levels, showing also the projected class sizes or student to teacher ratios you have in your materials. You see an increase of 3.98 of aides within the proposal here. That is several part-time aide positions to meet students with disabilities, their specific needs that we have identified as potential cost. We want to make sure that there's a placeholder in the budget. Some of these are new students who will be moving into the district. The process is they move in, we want to evaluate where they're at and what they need to deliver to meet their needs, and then we have allocations within the budget to be able to meet those needs as they arise. Folks then move to the tax levy. Again, the projection is about a 3.73% increase for this year, about half of what is projected for the state as an increase. And that there, with the number of referendums that pass and that percentage could even get higher this year based on additional levies to meet those needs. Our mill rate is projected at overall, our mill rate is projected to go down to $6.23. I'm using 4.35% as a projection for our tax base. That number is about 50% of the average property value increase we've experienced over the last 5 years. So trying to be very conservative on that. If the value comes in higher, it does not mean additional dollars that we can levy. It just means that mill rate will go down further. The mill rate is the tax levy divided by the total value of properties. The levy is going to stay what we projected. If the value gets bigger, it makes that mill rate smaller. And that's about a 0.6% decrease in that tax rate for the upcoming year. myself to that slide. You can see the history of the mill rate here. 2019 or 2013-14 is really where we kind of topped out at $11.84. We've been on a decline ever since then, our mill rate, meaning that our values of our property have grown at a much faster rate than what the levies have increased for the district. Looking at that, even with homes that have had improvements in that, if you look back at your property tax bill from 2003 and then you look at it now in 2026, you'll see a very similar net property tax levy for the school district. So school taxes minus the school's levy credit will give you your net cost of what the school has been over time. And again, that comes from legislative action in the biennial budget, changing how that composition is of the levy. What are those offsets to the levy certain years and allowable increases in other years? Any questions?
I do. So, can you just explain how much flexibility we have in our budget for things that we can't foresee, like maybe a major infrastructure failure that we have to replace, or high medical claims? How much flexibility do we have in our budget to respond to those unforeseen costs?
Yeah, so there's a couple of items that are within the budget. We have two capital projects funds, Fund 41 and Fund 46, that are reserved for items that are identified on the long-range capital projects plan. The comprehensive nature of that review to make sure that things that could go wrong are identified, even if we don't expect them to. We want you to have an idea of here's the exposure you have over the next 5 to 7 years. So we do a lot of due diligence on that. So if a boiler went or if a mechanical system went, we would have the ability to utilize those funds that are set aside. There's about $1.1 million in Fund 46. There's about $80,000 in Fund 41 projected at the end of this fiscal year that would be in that rainy day or that safety net fund. Within our operating budget, we budget for things like healthcare. We budget that at our expected claims or slightly over our expected claims, just to make sure that if everything happens the way it's supposed to, we're going to be covered. We also carry secondary coverage on specific events and on aggregate coverage to make sure that if everything goes wrong, there's a cap. We're not going to have, that could impact your fund balance. So ultimately, if something like that happens, rather than having a break-even budget, you may end up spending a deficit because you had an extraordinary event that year. That's part of the purpose of having operating reserves there. What we do every year, and our goal is to have adequate contingencies within the budget to be able to address student move-ins, unforeseen circumstances throughout the year, and then we monitor that. Every week you're monitoring where are your expenses at, where are they going to end up. We will be coming to the board on May 18th with a budget amendment where we see some of those costs that we anticipated. We've been able to avoid those costs that we anticipated, where we can reallocate those to those things we couldn't. A budget is 1,000 estimates that you're coming up with, and you're building those in March for expenses that you're not going to see until June of the following year. So my team does an excellent job of incorporating those estimates and incorporating those elements into the budget so you have a comfort level. And your comfort level is that you're going to be successful in bringing it in within the numbers that you had.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
A couple of them actually, and maybe because Sarah knows a lot about this too. I mean, so across the state, I mean, we've seen the declining enrollment is pretty much universal, and obviously the rural areas a lot more. But we're also seeing some slight increases in terms of special education, which is exactly happening here in Pewaukee as well. I mean, from, again, the data in your charts or in your report is there. So, I mean, I think those are some of the things, and Anthony's still hanging around here too, that's one that we really need to kind of pay attention to in terms of what that is, and especially in light of the fact that we don't necessarily get the full reimbursement that we need to be able to provide the educational services for those special education students. So hopefully that can be continued to move forward, and maybe if we're lucky, we get a little funding from the state on that one in terms of that part of it. So the other quick question, do you know exactly what our head count is or number of students in the 5K program? How many students do we have?
Mike's going right to the dashboard. Anthony, see who gets there first.
Let's see who's faster.
I would say 174.
174, okay.
In
Because I think the
5K.
thing that's out there, I mean, it's like these students that are there in the 4K, 5K program, if we carry that forward, I mean, we're looking in the next 10 or 12 years, a pretty significant reduction in terms of the number of total students. If we use that as the lowest number, or 4K even might be a little bit lower than that, but
Yeah, going back to the
5K.
Baldridge days,
5K.
5K.
Mike and I might be off a couple numbers, but I have 177.
177. So do that times 12 or whatever it is. It's like, I mean, our total enrollment here is going to drop.
Yeah, going back to the Baldridge application, Larry, when we talked about that, that was a strategic advantage of the district. It wasn't a core competency, but it was a strategic advantage having the campus to manage that. And over the years, as we increased in enrollment, we added sections as they became necessary to stay within the range of students that we. The same thing is happening now as we see smaller classes coming through, particularly at the early elementaries, managing the number of sections that we need to keep that student-teacher ratio that we believe is still gonna provide a strong education at every grade level. It gives us that flexibility. It's a beauty of having everything on one, it's one of the bonuses of having everything on one campus.
But, okay, this is maybe just a precautionary thing, but if we do that, in terms of if you looked at how that 174 students move their way through, I mean, we're gonna potentially have less sections, which means could we temporarily close or shut down classrooms? Because I mean, if you look at Waukesha, Kettle Moraine, some other places, I mean, they are literally closing whole schools. Well, here we can't necessarily close whole schools, but we've gotta figure out how are we gonna cut down or reduce the number of classrooms occupied too, because if we don't need them in terms of classroom space, what are you gonna, I mean, you gotta figure out a way to kind of save some money on those, so.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're already doing that. I mean, we've reduced in the past, if you recall, going back a couple of years ago, we had a $1.2 million structural deficit we addressed. We worked through a $500,000 structural deficit this year. We reduced sections. Generally, it's been mostly a PLE because that's where the decline is coming. You know, the good news is we're not having kids leave this district at all different spots. It's coming on the front end so we can see it coming, and then that's gonna work its way up into Horizon, and on you go. We used to, at one point, we were peaking at almost 10 sections per grade level in those elementaries, and now we're getting to grade levels with 8s and 9s, so that's what you're talking about, and that is coming through the natural attrition, and that's also comes into play when you talk about open enrollment and how many seats that we open for those.
But my real question is, yes, we can reduce staff and be flexible and variable there, but have we officially closed classrooms? I mean, do we have classrooms that are closed or empty?
We use them for other things.
Yeah, there's, every room has a purpose. Every room is being utilized for a specific purpose. We don't mothball a classroom, because of, you're still gonna have your heating and cooling and everything else costs that are there.
Right.
And we can use them as additional resource areas as we reduce sections to be able to deliver content in a different environment.
Okay. Well, so I worked in the healthcare industry during the period of time when we went through some major downsizing in terms of our occupancy levels. And we literally had full nursing units that we had to shut down in terms of what was there. So, and that's my thought process in saying, okay, yes, you could use them for some other purpose, but does that really save us a whole lot of money? I don't know, but.
Well, I mean, John just showed it in his presentation, the cost is people. So if we have a space that we have flexibly used, but the staffing's reduced, closing and not using the classroom doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because that doesn't really save us any money in and of itself. What saves us is if we have less sections, then that's less teachers, less paraprofessionals, whatever, because that's where the cost is. And so, as we've talked about with, in this case, we reduced a section at PLE for next year. We reduced an administrator in the district office for next year. Those were those were two of the major pieces. It is also about some of the approaches in hiring. We incentivize a little bit of retirement. And generally have hired people at starting salaries that, again, because those are ongoing costs. That's the structural side of all of this. So we anticipate there will be section reductions next year because we can see we can see the smaller enrollments and grade levels moving up, and so that will happen naturally.
questions? We just talk about process for a second here then. So you got all the materials, you got context for the materials that we delivered tonight. May 18th will be the adoption of the preliminary operating budget. That'll be on the agenda for the board. That grants us the authority then to operate the district from July 1st until the original budget is adopted at the end of October, and that's what includes the final tax levy. We'll use the preliminary budget to generate all of our presentations for the annual meeting and the budget hearing in August. And then the final tax levy is set in October. There's 3 key pieces of information that we need yet in order for that to happen. Number 1 is our third Friday in September count. Happens the third Friday in September. That count date, the October 1st values are certified by the Department of Revenue. And then finally, on October 15th, the state certifies the amount of equalization aid that we're going to get for the year. I believe we're really close on the estimates of what that number is going to be going into next year. That allows the board then to set that property tax levy at the last meeting in October, I believe October 22nd, and then that can be certified to the local municipalities for collections beginning in December. And then we get to start all over again in November.
I just want Anna and Maura to know there's going to be a quiz on everything he just presented as your exit time. I don't think I'd pass it either, so don't worry about it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Actually,
You're right back up.
you get to stay because you get to talk about that establishment of that escrow account with that defeasance.
Or you might do that from your seat. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
He's going to sit back down. He's actually just going to have Sarah come up and present. Did you know this?
Yeah, were you ready?
So, yes, the next item that we have on the agenda is for resolution authorizing the transfer of funds to create an escrow for a defeasance. So what we're doing is, if you recall, last October, we had a levy stabilization levy. That dollar amount, in addition to some of the accumulated interest earnings that we've had specific to our debt service fund, allows us to do a defeasance, take debt that's due in 2028, pull it back into this year. So it becomes the escrow agent's responsibility to pay, but we build it into our cost structure this year. We expense it in this year's budget. We've used this strategy ever since 2018 and have exceeded well over $1 million of interest savings to the tax levy for debt service in that time period. This one here generates about $40,000 in net savings after all the cost of issuance. So it's not great, but it does reduce the levy now for 27-28 fiscal year will be reduced by the amount that we have here for paying that scheduled debt service. Any questions? The team that we're using here is the same team we've used for the last defeasance, so for the last 2.
You just need a motion, right?
Yes.
I can do it. Move to approve I recommend the approval of a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds, the establishment of an escrow account with respect to and defeasance of certain of the general obligation refunding bonds dated December 2nd, 2020.
Second. Go ahead, thanks. Yep, you got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, the administrative structural approval. We have had some changes in administration, so therefore this needs to reflect that.
Correct. So, per your board policy, and the policies are referenced in the memorandum, there's really 2 policies that speak to this. It's the superintendent is charged with creating an administrative structure that's then approved by the board. Let me get to my correct document here. I should have had this thing right pulled up. So there's been some changes, and we talked about this. Let's get to the right page here. Okay. So the easiest reference is the kind of the table or the chart there of the administrative team and operations. This will really reflect the names and things are where we'll be as of July 1st. And some of this is already in place, so it's in transition. As we talked about, there have been some changes that actually weren't updated previously. So the one that sticks out is we went from a dean of students and an associate principal at the high school to 2 associate principals. This would clean up that piece, so that's reflected here. But in particular at the district office, you can see current titles for different positions. This includes some title change. And it represents the consolidation of positions. So we talked about as part of the budget reduction piece. In essence, what we had was with the retirements that are coming of across the roles of Robin Wilson, which you can see here is going to be replaced by Cady Spadoni as Director of Learning Academic Coaching. Mike Murphy as our network engineer, Rachel York as Chief Information Technology Officer. As a component of that, Paul Behrens was hired into a new position of Chief Technology Officer, which includes much of what was Mike Murphy's responsibility as a network engineer and a significant portion of Rachel's responsibilities. Some of that's being redistributed to other people. I know Paul's working to take some of the tasks and things that Mike Murphy used to manage and empowering and distributing them more to other members of his IT team. He thinks that and knows that there's a lot of talent there and things that people can manage that maybe Mike used to own. There's pieces from Rachel's responsibilities that Paul is taking ownership of. Anthony is taking some of those responsibilities. Some might go to a learning coach. Adriana Plock is picking up some of those pieces as well. Adriana is being moved from continuous improvement coordinator up to the newly titled position of Director of Innovation and Continuous Improvement. Along with Cady Spadoni and Anthony, that is the teaching and learning really administrative structure. So you have Anthony as the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, and reporting directly him now would be Director of Learning and Academic Coaching and Director of Innovation and Continuous Improvement. So you see those pieces reflected there. The other change is a title change and a promotion as we continue to re-recruit people of great talent, and that is Miranda Kozlik, who was our marketing and communications manager to a role that is a director level role. So her new title is Director of Communication and District Branding. So that is another change that I would point out to you. So this structure, open to any questions that you have, but this really reflects kind of the organization of the district office. So ultimately, if there were no questions, I would just need a motion and action to approve the administrative structure.
Looking for a motion? I move to approve the PSD administrative structure as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, personnel. How about resignations?
Yeah, we have a few resignations here, and the letters were included in your materials. I'd seek your approval for the resignations of PLE FIED teacher Julia Steinke and Haley Zwifka, speech as a speech pathologist who have resigned.
To approve the resignations as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And following up with that, employments. There are 4 employments at this time. Been really pleased with the work the principals are doing. Anthony talked about this in his salutes, and we have some more coming at the next meeting. I got a couple more signed today that you'll see on the 18th. But there's 4 looking at tonight. So looking for your approval for Chelsea Roth and Christina Bertram, who would both be new special education teachers at Horizon Elementary. Peyton Roth, 4K special education teacher, and Kaylin Lecker, speech pathologist at Horizon.
Move to approve the hiring of Chelsea Roth, Christina Bertram, Peyton Roth. Oh, are they related? Is that right? Do we have two Roths?
Two Roths, but
Okay.
I don't think they're related.
Just want to make sure I wasn't misspeaking.
Just two
And
Roths.
Kaylin Lecker?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And no leave of absence.
No leaves.
All right. Review of up-and-coming activities. Of course, this Wednesday is a ribbon cutting ceremony. Who else gonna come that night? Great, awesome. I think it's gonna be a great time, and many from the community.
Did we do RSVPs for that, Tammy, or did we just put the invites out?
There was RSVPs and the invites were out. It was the community invites as a general
Right.
invite for everybody, and then there was kind of that select group that got a certain invitation.
Do you have to remember how many RSVP'd?
I don't have that number.
Okay.
Okay.
But it was 60, 70 people.
Yes.
So we really have the ribbon cutting at 5:30, and then we just have kind of an open call at 6 for self-guided tours. We'll have students in the spaces showing because they're beautiful standalone, but it just brings a whole different perspective when we see students active in those spaces. There'll be some food, there's gonna be music, there's gonna be a national anthem with the choir, there's gonna be some piano playing going on, so, with some of our really talented students, so I think it should be a real, nice event and a proud moment for the school district.
Looking forward to that. Next Tuesday, May 5th, is the Open Door Awards at the Sharon Lynn Wilson Center. Arrival time is 5:30, and the ceremony begins at 7. Mike, Stacey, you want to say anything about this event?
I'm gonna turn it over to Mike.
Okay.
I've been raising money.
Yeah, we got a
some
pretty good
money
job
raised.
raising some money to help fund it. Again, generous support of our community. I think it's going to be a great event. We're very excited about it. Get some great staff members and partners to be recognized. It went really well last year. I think we took some notes last year and have done some tweaks to make some improvements for this year, which I think will be nice ads. I think there'll be some laughs. Miranda did a nice job on the video leading in. We'll see if we ever find that magic door, so there's some drama and suspense on that because, that's how we pick the winners. So, you're going to have to stay tuned for that. It's a beautiful location. Hopefully we get some good weather for it. That would be nice because we had beautiful weather last year for it. So looking forward to a nice evening celebrating the great work that our staff and our partners do.
Awesome. Monday, May 11th, and Wednesday, May 13th, from 6 to 7:30 are our strategic planning sessions held right here in the Learning Commons.
Yep.
Similar to last year.
Yeah, the same approach as last year. Roundtables. Just some quick feedback. As you recall, last year we had some more general feedback roundtables for questions, and we had 2 special topics that we included. Last year was AI and really the cell phone piece. This year, my plan is to include AI once again as one of the pieces because I think that's only continuing to grow as a topic. But the other special topic was going to be about cost controls and reductions. I think it's time to start engaging a little bit more directly with the community on those pieces since now we've had a couple of structural deficits. We have some real uncertainty with the biennium budget, so that was my plan for that to be kind of do the similar thing as having those 2 specific topics for discussion, but I'm open to feedback if the board feels there should be something different than those 2.
Awesome.
So, and if you don't have anything right now, you can certainly reach out to me and say, hey, I really want to make sure we get some feedback on X, Y, or Z.
Okay.
Can I ask how many of us are able to make each night? I have a potential conflict on the Wednesday, so I'm just trying to figure out. So who's going to be here on Monday? The 11th.
Monday.
Okay, who's going to be here on Wednesday? Okay. All right.
Okay, Monday, May 18th is the next board meeting, 6 p.m. Business Affairs, 7 p.m. board meeting. Saturday, May 30th is our high school graduation at 1 p.m. And so far Tammy has down Matt, myself, and Larry as attending. Wednesday, June 3rd is our Asa Clark 8th grade promotion, 6 p.m. on the football field. And so far, Tammy has myself and Stacey attending.
On a two,
I would just add May 4th is going to be the next round we have 3 candidates that are going to be in for the middle school principal process. I'll send out some information. There's opportunities. It'll include presentations. Those of you who were around when we hired Horizon principal a couple years ago, that would be a component. We're certainly, there'll be parents, and any board member is welcome to sit in on those presentations. So I'll get some more information out to all of you, and thank you to Ashley and Travis for sitting in on round 1 of those interviews.
Yes.
And hoping the plan is to bring a candidate for your approval on May 18th.
Awesome. And finally, Friday, June 5th is the end of year celebration. Invitations will come out shortly, but that's when we celebrate our retarees. We start with lunch and then we end up in the auditorium. It's just a really great event. I enjoy it every year. Mike always has something wonderful to say.
We'll try not to disappoint.
To motivate us.
Okay,
So,
wonderful.
So I'm just gonna encourage everybody to attend if you can. That's a really great event. Okay, so.
Nobody's ever sad that day. There's always plenty of energy for whatever
There
reason.
is.
It's
A lot
just,
of excitement. It's a happy day.
It seems to
Happy
always
day.
be a happy day.
Okay, so. Next, CISA. We need to appoint a delegate, for CISA, Region 1. Larry, would you like to speak to this?
I would be glad to do it again in terms of what's there. And yes, I serve on the board there, so I'm glad to be the delegate as well.
Anybody have any questions for Larry? He's got that down.
I don't see anybody fighting you for it.
No,
No,
I don't
that's
see
okay.
it. So with that, I'll take a motion for Larry to be our delegate.
Move to approve Larry Dukes as board member, or it's our board member representing us in the Board of Control. Is that what it's called? The Board of Control for the annual convention of CISA? Am I saying that right? CISA. He's gonna be our CISA rep.
Second.
Second. All
That
in
works
favor?
Aye.
Okay. Legislative advocacy update.
Yeah, I think John really hit it in his presentation. We're just kind of waiting to see if they do anything productive with this surplus. I was at the WASDA Spring Convention last week, and we got an update from SAA. I think the term I heard was 50-50 chance on a settlement. There's some energy around, again, John said it's special education. There's a lot of interest in property tax relief in an election year. So we continue to be hopeful that something gets done there, because that'll make an impact. We have a position right now that we're holding back on filling as we wait to see what's happening, that we're kind of planning to live without if we have to help us make sure the budget's balanced for next year if we have to do that. So we have some strategies in place if that special ed funding doesn't go where we thought we were hoping it was going to go. So that's the big piece, is what are they doing with this budget surplus?
Okay. Last but not least, it's that time of year again, and we have to elect our board officers. You were given 4 pieces of paper that you can use to vote, and Anthony's gonna come.
I'm ready. Anthony's the ballot collector.
So, I guess really we need nominations first. So let's start with board treasurer.
I nominate Bren Sawall.
You want Bren to be the treasurer?
What's that?
You want Bren to be the treasurer? I'd be happy to have Bren be the treasurer. She wants to be the treasurer
I'm
and the
gonna say
president.
I'm gonna have to turn that one down.
Yeah.
I nominate Stacey.
I second.
Okay.
Paper or
Do we, so we really understand it's just Stacey?
You're not running against me? You
No.
sure you don't want to?
No, I decline. So really then, we can just take a verbal vote. All in favor of Stacey as treasurer for this coming year, say aye.
Are you okay, Larry?
Aye, yes. I thought you were going for president first.
Oh,
No,
no,
she's
No,
no,
it's
treasurer.
treasurer. She said treasurer.
Okay.
That's why there was
Treasurer,
confusion.
yeah.
I misunderstood.
Okay. Okay, so all in favor of Stacey as treasurer for the coming year, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, you're in, Stace.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Okay, I'll take nominations for board clerk. I nominate Matt.
I second.
No other nominations? All in favor,
Hold on,
say
Bren,
aye.
Hold on one second.
Technically, I
just
do
hold on one
think
second.
you have to ask 3 times.
Do I have to ask 3 times?
You have to ask-
Okay.
That's
Are there
correct.
any more nominations? One more time, would there be any more nominations? Okay, so at this point, it looks like Matt.
Yes. Way to go,
All
congratulations.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This is going so quickly. Okay, I'll take nominations for vice president. I nominate Ashley.
Second on that one. All those in favor? Oh, you have to ask 3 times. though.
Hilarious tonight.
3 times, you have to ask 3 times.
Oh, yes, that's right. I'll ask again. Are there any other nominations? And one final request. Are there any other nominations for vice president? All in favor of Ashley being our vice president for the coming year, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And finally, board president will take nominations.
I nominate Bren.
I second.
Are there any other nominations from the floor? And one final request, are there any further nominations?
We're done.
All in favor of Bren Sawall for president for the coming year, say aye.
Aye.
Well, y'all made that pretty easy.
Congratulations, everybody.
Thanks, Anthony.
So, Mike, I just have one quick comment. Rachel was on a Spectrum One in
Yeah.
focus session. It was really interesting. I was like kind of flipping on my channel at the, 'cause I have Spectrum at home. But Rachel was doing a program or a session on there, so I sent the link to it. So I don't know if you want to share that with the group.
Yeah,
at some point.
Bren was on Spectrum TV. She was interviewed. Rachel.
Bren's eyes are all big like, what?
Bren, you're going to be treasurer. You're on TV, and you're president.
Oh, my.
No. Rachel was interviewed on TV about artificial intelligence in schools last week, and yeah, it was. She did a nice job. So it was on Spectrum TV last week, and we make sure you have the link.
Like, and I sent Mike, and did you get a copy? Did I send one to you or not? No. Okay, it was just like, okay, send it out, so.
Yeah, she did a nice job.
Okay. Tammy, are there any citizen comments? Okay, then I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, guys. That was a great meeting.
Meeting everybody.
Tammy, thank you for providing all those docs for us
It
today
was
with the
very
craft.